This isn't a story about revenge. It's a story about what power does to people when they're pushed past dignity. People think power feels like protection. They never tell you what it costs after. She's 26 and already used to being overlooked. A ghost in a blazer. A voice people hear but never remember. He's 42, and when he walks into a room, the air changes. Not because he demands it, because he's survived rooms that would have killed softer men. When she sees him bleeding in the hotel lobby at 2 a.m., she has 3 seconds to decide. Call security, look away, or step forward. She steps forward, not because she wants to hurt anyone, not because she's brave, but because walking away, leaving him there, would make her complicit in something worse. Stay with me, because the truth she uncovers doesn't reward her. It doesn't save her. It permanently changes who she becomes. The hotel lobby smelled like eucalyptus and money. Rachel had worked the night desk for 3 years. She knew the rhythm of it, the late checkouts, the quiet hum of the elevator, the occasional drunk businessman who needed a cab. She knew how to be helpful without being memorable. That was the skill, really. Be present enough to do the job, invisible enough to stay safe. It was 2:17 a.m. when the man walked in. He wasn't stumbling, wasn't loud, wasn't asking for anything, but his coat was dark in a way that didn't match the fabric. Rachel's hand hovered over the phone. He walked slowly to the desk. His eyes, gray, tired, steady, found hers. "I need a room," he said quietly, "and I need you not to call anyone." Her mouth went dry. She should have pressed the button under the desk. She should have smiled and said, "Of course, let me get my manager." Instead, she whispered, "Are you hurt?" He exhaled, almost smiled. Almost. Not as badly as I could be. Her hands shook as she typed in the system. Room 804. No credit card. Cash up front. She slid the key across the desk. "Thank you," he said. And then, quieter. "You didn't have to do that." Rachel swallowed. "I know." He turned toward the elevator. Stopped. Look back. "What's your name?" "Rachel." "Rachel," he repeated, like he was filing it somewhere important. "I'm Vincent." The elevator doors closed. Rachel sat back down. Her heart was pounding. Her hands were still shaking. And somewhere deep inside, a part of her knew. That was the moment. That was the choice. She just didn't know yet what it would cost. Rachel didn't sleep that night. She sat at the desk, staring at the elevator doors, waiting for police sirens that never came. She kept replaying it. The blood, the calm, the way he'd said thank you like it mattered. She told herself she'd done the right thing. Or at least, not the wrong thing. But the truth was murkier than that. By morning, her shift supervisor arrived. Paula, sharp-eyed and skeptical of everything. "Quiet night?" Paula asked, pouring herself coffee. Rachel nodded. "Yeah, quiet." Paula studied her for a second too long, then shrugged. "Good. Keep it boring." Rachel went home, showered, stared at herself in the mirror. What kind of person will I become if I help him? She didn't know, but she also knew she couldn't unhear the exhaustion in his voice. Couldn't unsee the way he'd walked, like a man who'd been hunted and had stopped running a long time ago. 3 days later, he came back. Not bleeding this time. Just there, sitting in the lobby at midnight, reading a newspaper like he had every right to be. Rachel's stomach flipped. He looked up, smiled faintly. "Hi, Rachel." She walked over slowly. "You're okay?" "More or less." Silence. Then Vincent folded the paper, looked at her directly. "I wanted to say thank you properly. For not making the easy choice." Rachel's throat tightened. "I don't even know what the easy choice was." "Exactly," Vincent said quietly. "That's why I'm here." Vincent didn't tell her everything that night, but he told her enough. They sat in the empty hotel bar, technically closed, but Rachel had a key. He drank water. She drank tea she didn't want. "I wasn't always careful," Vincent said, staring into his glass. "When I was younger, I thought power meant never backing down, never bending." "What changed?" Rachel asked. "I lost someone." The words landed heavy. "My sister," he continued. "Elena. She was good. Better than me. Better than this world." Rachel didn't speak. She got caught in something that wasn't hers to carry. And I couldn't stop it. I was too busy being loud. Too busy proving I was untouchable. He looked up at Rachel. "After that, I learned. Power isn't about how much noise you make. It's about how much you can hold without breaking." Rachel's chest ached. This wasn't a man who enjoyed destruction. This was someone who'd survived it, and decided, quietly, that he'd rather be the one who stopped it than the one who caused it. Why are you telling me this? She asked. Vincent smiled sadly. Because you made a choice in a moment when most people wouldn't. And I think you deserve to know what kind of world you just stepped into. Rachel's hands were cold. And what world is that? One where restraint matters more than revenge, Vincent said. But where people will still come for you if they think you're weak. He stood. I won't let that happen to you, Rachel. But I need you to understand. Once you're seen by people like me, you can't go back to being invisible. Rachel looked at him. At the exhaustion in his eyes. At the weight he carried like old armor. What if I don't want to go back? She whispered. Vincent didn't answer right away. Then, quietly. Then hold on. Because it's going to get harder before it gets easier. Rachel started noticing things. The same black car parked across the street from her apartment. A man in a gray jacket who seemed to be at the coffee shop every morning she was. At first, she told herself she was being paranoid. But then Vincent called. Don't go home tonight, he said, voice calm but final. Stay at the hotel. Room 804. I'll meet you there. Vincent, what? They're watching you, Rachel. Not because you did anything wrong. Because they think you matter to me. Her blood went cold. Do I? Silence. Then, yes. She moved through the hotel like a stranger in her own skin. Every sound felt amplified. Every shadow felt intentional. When she got to room 804, Vincent was already there. He didn't touch her, just stood near the window, watching the street below. They won't hurt you, he said quietly. But they'll scare you. Make you doubt. Make you think leaving me is safer than staying. Is it? Rachel asked. Vincent turned. I don't know anymore. It happened 3 nights later. Rachel was working her shift when 2 men in suits walked into the lobby. Not hotel guests. Not tourists. They moved like men who knew exactly where they were going. Straight to her desk. Rachel Winters? The taller one asked. She nodded, mouth dry. We're friends of Vincent Caruso. He asked us to make sure you got home safely tonight. It wasn't a question. It wasn't a threat. It was a declaration. That's when Rachel understood. Vincent wasn't just connected. He wasn't just dangerous. He was the kind of man who could make phone calls that rearranged entire nights. The kind of man people feared and respected in equal measure. And she, Rachel Winters, Invisible Receptionist, was now under his protection. She felt safer, but also smaller. Like she'd walked into a room she couldn't leave untouched. Vincent didn't destroy his enemies. He dismantled them. Rachel watched it happen slowly, methodically, like watching a building collapse in reverse. A rival family who'd been circling Vincent's territory suddenly lost their supplier. A corrupt city councilman who'd taken bribes found his accounts frozen. A man who'd threatened Rachel's safety disappeared from public life entirely. No violence. No spectacle. Just systems collapsing under their own weight. Is this what you do? Rachel asked one night, sitting across from him in his study. When I have to, Vincent said. Does it ever feel good? He looked at her for a long time. No, he said finally. It feels necessary. There's a difference. Rachel believed him. And that scared her more than anything. Because it meant this was who he'd become. Not a monster. Just someone who'd learned to carry violence like a tool. Never celebrated, always controlled. The call came at 11 p.m. Vincent answered on the second ring. Rachel watched from the doorway as he listened, said nothing, then spoke 4 words. It's over, Marcus. Walk away. Silence. Then Vincent hung up. He didn't slam the phone. Didn't pace. Didn't smile. He just sat there, shoulders heavy, like a man who'd done this too many times before. Who was that? Rachel asked quietly. The last one, Vincent said. The man who thought I was weak because I didn't retaliate loudly. What happens now? Vincent exhaled slowly. Now he learns what restraint actually costs. Rachel didn't ask what that meant. She wasn't sure she wanted to know. Marcus Vitali had been in the game for 30 years. He knew when he'd lost. Vincent didn't need to raise his voice. Didn't need to threaten. He just sat across from Marcus in a private room and laid out the truth. You came after someone I care about. Not because she did anything. Because you thought it would hurt me. Marcus said nothing. It did. Vincent continued quietly. But not in the way you thought. He leaned forward. You made me remember why I stopped being loud, Marcus. Why I stopped proving things. Because loud men make mistakes. And you just made yours. Marcus's hands shook slightly. Not from fear. From understanding. I'm done, Marcus said. Vincent nodded. Good. There was no violence. No triumph. Just 2 tired men acknowledging that one had miscalculated. And that was punishment enough. 6 months later. Rachel stood in Vincent's apartment, looking out at the city. She had a new job now. Better pay. Security she'd never imagined. Vincent stood beside her, hand resting lightly on the small of her back. "You're quiet," he said. Rachel smiled faintly. "I'm thinking. About." She turned to face him. "About how different everything is. How safe I feel. How seen." Vincent studied her face. "But," Rachel's smile faded. "But I sleep lighter now. I notice things I didn't before. I look over my shoulder in ways I never used to." She paused. "I'm never going to be invisible again, am I?" Vincent shook his head slowly. "No." Silence. Then Rachel whispered, "Sometimes I miss who I was before." Vincent's jaw tightened. Not in anger. In regret. "I know," he said quietly. "I'm sorry for that." Rachel touched his face gently. "I'm not saying I regret it. I'm just saying, power isn't free, even when it protects you." Vincent closed his eyes. "No," he agreed. "It never is." They stood there together. Safe. Changed. Bound by choices neither could undo. Rachel would never be invisible again. But sometimes, late at night, she still remembered the version of herself who could walk through a lobby unnoticed, who could make small choices without consequence, who didn't know yet what it meant to be seen by someone who carried the weight of the world in silence. She didn't regret choosing Vincent, but she understood now. Love, like power, always asks for something in return, and you never know the price until you've already paid it. Feel free to subscribe to this channel if this story really connects. Thank you. See you on the next story.